I'm Mel.
And I'm Janelle.
And this is The Murder Mamas.
The Murder Mamas.
Welcome.
Welcome.
So today is going to be part 2 of the Toolbox Killers. Last time we ended with Bittaker claiming the tape recording of the pair in Ledford was a threesome, which we all know is not the truth.
So we just covered all of the murders,
all
right?
of the murders, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
They were gross.
They were gross.
You should go listen to them.
Yes.
Definitely don't start on this
episode.
episode.
On this episode. Start on episode 1. Yeah. In November 19...
Unless you don't want to hear gross shit.
Yeah, that's true. In November 1979, Norris became reacquainted with a friend named Joseph Jackson, an individual with whom he had previously been incarcerated at the California Men's Colony. Norris confided in Jackson regarding his and Bittaker's exploits over the previous 5 months, including graphic details of the murder of Shirley Ledford, the only victim whose body had been found at this time.
I didn't realize that they had only done all 5 of those in 5 months.
Yeah, very quickly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Norris also divulged to Jackson that in addition to the 5 murders he and Bittaker had committed, there had been 3 additional incidents in which he and Bittaker had abducted or attempted to abduct young women who had either escaped their attackers or, in one instance, had actually been raped but released. Upon hearing Norris's confession, Jackson consulted his attorney, who advised him to inform authorities. Jackson agreed, and he and his attorney informed the Los Angeles Police Department, who in turn relayed the 2 men to the Hermosa Beach Police Department. A Hermosa Beach detective named Paul Bunham was assigned to investigate Jackson's claims as to Norris's confessions of the murders, attempted abductions, and rapes that he had confided to Jackson had occurred between June and October.
Did Jackson say why he went and told on him, or
no? I think he
he just had a conscience.
Yeah, probably. Probably wasn't such a bad guy.
Wow.
Maybe he was in there for theft.
Not a horrible piece of shit person.
Yeah.
Wow. What a gamble to take to tell someone something like that.
True.
I mean, I'm glad he did, but
Benham initially noted that Jackson's statements as to Norris's confessions did match reports on file of several teenage girls who had been reported missing over the previous 5 months. In addition, the incident Norris had confided to Jackson where he claimed he and Bittaker had sprayed mace in the face of a woman who had then been dragged into Bittaker's GMC van and raped by both men matched a report filed in relation to an incident that occurred on September 30th. In this filed report, a young woman named Robin Robeck had a mace sprayed in her face before being dragged into a van and raped by 2 Caucasian men in their mid-30s before being released. Although Robeck had reported the abduction and rape to police, they had been unable to identify her assailants. Benham dispatched an investigator to visit Robeck at her residence in Oregon to show her a series of mugshots. Without hesitation, Robeck positively identified 2 photos presented to her as those of the men who had kidnapped and raped her on September 30th. The 2 individuals she identified were Bittaker and Norris.
Wow.
Yeah. Upon linking Bittaker and Norris to the rape of Robin Robeck, the Hermosa Beach police placed Norris under surveillance. Within days, they had observed his dealing in marijuana. On November 20th, 1979, Norris was arrested by the Hermosa Beach police for a parole violation. The same day, at the Burbank motel where he resided, Bittaker was arrested for the rape of Robin Robeck.
Why is he living in a hotel?
Why are they out?
Out of what?
Jail. These people have been in and out of jail their whole life.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. They should be in jail. They're not rehabilitated. No, but why is he living in a hotel? I don't understand that.
Although Robeck had identified mugshots of Bittaker and Norris, she was unable to positively identify her assailants in the police lineup.
Maybe he lives at a hotel. Sorry, I can't get this off my brain. Maybe he lives at a hotel because he's a felon.
Yeah.
And so no one will rent to him.
Maybe
that's it.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Anyways, completely unrelated.
Nonetheless, police had observed Norris dealing in marijuana, whereas Bittaker had been in possession of drugs at the time of his arrest. Both were held on charges of parole violation. A search of Bittaker's apartment revealed several Polaroid.
And by apartment, you mean hotel room.
Yeah. Photographs, which were determined as depicting Hall and Gilliam, both of whom had been reported as missing earlier the same year. Inside Bittaker's van, investigators discovered a sledgehammer, a plastic bag filled with lead weights, a book detailing how to locate police radio frequencies, a jar of Vaseline, 2 necklaces, later confirmed as belonging to 2 of the victims, and a tape recording of a young woman in obvious distress screaming and repeatedly pleading for mercy while being tortured and sexually abused. The mother of Ledford, named by Jackson as being one of the women who Norris had confessed he and Bittaker had killed, identified the voice on the tape as being that of her only daughter. The voices of the 2 men mocking and threatening Ledford in the process of her torture and abuse were identified as being Ray Norris and Lawrence Bittaker. Also found in Bittaker's motel were several bottles of various acidic materials. Investigators would later discover Bittaker planned to use these acidic materials upon their next victim. Yeah.
Like to burn them?
To burn them, I'm assuming.
It's like just like ramping up so much so fast. Yeah. And it's like clear that they're just like feeding off each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're feeding off each other.
Who can be the most piece of shit?
Yeah. Inside Norris's apartment, police discovered a bracelet he had taken from Ledford's body as a souvenir. Also found at the homes of both Bittaker and Norris were Polaroid pictures.
Why can't you say that word today?
I can't say that word today. Of almost 500 teenage girls and young women, most of which have apparently been taken at Redondo Beach and Hermosa Beach, with others taken by Bittaker at a Burbank high school. Most of these pictures had been taken without the girls' knowledge or consent.
Well, I'd imagine so. But also, what is this guy doing at a fucking high school?
High school? I know, right?
Like, did he just fit right in?
I guess so. Initially, Norris flatly denied any involvement in any murders, rapes, or disappearances. However, when confronted with the evidence investigators had compiled, Norris began to confess, although he did attempt to portray Bittaker as being more culpable in the murders than himself. In what Brenham and Katie later described as a, quote, casual, unconcerned manner, Norris divulged that he and Bittaker had been in the habit of driving around areas such as the Pacific Coast Highway and randomly approaching girls whom they found attractive with offers of a ride, posing the pair for photographs or marijuana. Most of those whom they approached rejected whatever given ruse Bittaker and Norris used to entice them into the van, although 4 girls had accepted lifts from the pair had been murdered, with a 5th victim, their first, being grabbed by force. Inside the van, the girls would typically be overpowered, bound hand and foot, gagged, and driven to locations deep within the San Gabriel Mountains, where they would be sexually assaulted by both men, then usually killed by strangulation with a wire coat hanger, although 2 of the victims had ice picks driven into their ears before being strangled.
You gotta talk about the fucking ice picks again, man. I hate that. I hate that so much.
It's really bad. Norris admitted to bludgeoning their youngest victim, Lamp, about the head with his sledgehammer as Bittaker strangled her, and admitted to repeatedly striking Shirley Ledford upon the elbow with a sledgehammer before strangling her to death. The bottles of acid found at Bittaker's motel, Norris stated, were intended for use upon the next victim they abducted, and the acts of torture and humiliation have been committed against the victims, quote, for fun. According, yeah, I know. Right?
Wow. I've been watching a lot of MasterChef, and if you watch it, I know we talked about this. Gordon Ramsay always, whenever they pick teams, he goes, wow. That's all I can think about. Wow. Whenever, like, someone picks one, they're like, I picked Josh. And he goes, wow.
According to Norris, the level of brutality Bittaker had exhibited toward their victims had increased on each successive instance they had lured a girl into their van. Their final victim, Ledford, had actually pleaded to be killed in order that her agony could cease. Additional details by Norris provided further corroboration evidence to support his confessions. For example, he knew that their first victim, Schaefer, had left a meeting at a Presbyterian church shortly before she was abducted, and that Schaefer had lost one shoe as she had been dragged into Bittaker's van. Norris also knew part of Shirley Ledford's ancestry was Hispanic, and Bittaker had unsuccessfully asked her to date him prior to October 1979.
Wow.
Yeah, right? In a press statement relating to the police investigation into the murders issued on February 7, 1980, Los Angeles County Sheriff Peter Pitches stated the victims had been subject to sadistic and barbaric abuse.
They had?
Yeah.
Correct.
Adding that 5 charges of first-degree murder would be sought against both Bittaker and Norris. Sheriff Pitchless also stated that in retaliation to the
In relation
to the Polaroid pictures. Polaroid pictures.
What?
I don't know. I can't say that today. Oh,
You're the only person old enough to have used a Polaroid in this room.
So. Maybe like twice in my life.
I'm just fucking with you.
Found in Bittaker and Norris's apartments, police had located 60 of the young women depicted, none of whom had been harmed.
Well, that's good. At least you didn't kill 500 people.
Nonetheless, Pitchless also stated that police had also identified 19 of the women depicted in the pictures as being individuals who had been reported missing, and that these teenage girls and young women may have well been murdered, although Pitchless did stress that they had no conclusive evidence to suggest that these additional 19 women photographed had fallen victim to Bittaker and Norris.
So there's a chance there's more victims, but they've only admitted to 5?
Yeah.
Wow.
One of the
Polaroid
pictures seized from Bittaker and Norris depicts an unidentified young white woman alone with Bittaker and Norris in circumstances very similar to the pictures found depicting known victims Hall, Lamb, and Gilliam. The young women in these pictures had never been identified. This photograph is indicative that there may have been one further victim who neither Bittaker or Norris ever mentioned to investigators. Norris agreed to return to the San Gabriel Mountains to search for the bodies of the girls whose abduction and murder he had confessed to assisting in. In each instance, Norris brought detectives to the area where he and Bittaker had disposed of their victims' bodies. Despite extensive searches of the areas where he had stated the bodies of Schaefer and Hall had been discarded, their bodies were never found. On February 9, 1980, the skeletized bodies of Lamb and Gilliam were found at the bottom of a canyon, alongside a dry riverbed. The bodies were scattered over an area measuring hundreds of feet in diameter. An ice pick was still lodged in the skull of Gilliam. The skull of Lamb bore multiple indentations, evidence of numerous hammer blows Norris had stated he inflicted. I know. In February 1980, Norris and Bittaker were formally charged with the murders of the 5 girls. At the arraignment, Bittaker was denied bail, where Norris's bail was set at $10,000.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, you heard me.
What?
Yep. Within 1 month.
Why?
I don't know.
Why? This man has a rap sheet longer than the fucking Constitution.
I know.
$10,000?
$10,000.
Even in 1980 money, that's not enough.
No. No.
What?
I know. Crazy.
Does he get on bail?
Within 1 month of him being charged with murder, Norris had accepted a plea bargain in which he would testify against Bittaker in return for the prosecution agreeing not to seek the death penalty against him.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
That's fine. But does he get bail or no?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good.
On March 18th, 1980, Norris pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder in relation to victim Hall, 2 counts of rape, and 1 count of robbery. Formal sentencing was postponed until May 7th. In return for Norris's agreeing to plead guilty and testify against Bittaker, prosecutors had agreed to seek neither the death penalty nor life without parole at the upcoming sentencing hearing. No.
Wait. Sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah. What?
What happened?
So, in return from Norris's agreeing to plead guilty and to testify against Bittaker, he won't get the death penalty or he won't get life without parole.
Oh.
Like, that can't be on the table for his sentence.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that just what they proposed or what actually happened?
No. Prior to his May 7th sentencing, Norris was reviewed by a probation officer who testified at his sentencing that Norris had again accused Bittaker of the actual torture of their victims, and that for Norris himself, the feeling of power and the dominance he had over the victims was the main overriding factor, as opposed to having sexual intercourse with them. The probation officer added that Norris, quote, never exhibited any remorse or compassion about his brutal acts towards the victims. The defendant appears compulsive in his need to inflict pain and torture upon women, unquote. In conclusion, the probation officer testified that Norris can realistically be regarded as extreme sociopath who have depraved pattern of behavior is beyond rehabilitation, unquote. On May 7, 1980, Norris was sentenced to 45 years to life imprisonment with the eligibility parole from 2010.
Fuck that.
Right?
Fuck that.
Yeah. On April 24, 1980, Bittaker was arraigned on 29 charges of kidnapping, rape, sodomy, and murder, in addition to various charges of criminal conspiracy and possession of a firearm.
Did they give him such a good deal because, like, Bittaker wouldn't talk?
I guess so. Yeah. He was also charged with 2 counts of conspiracy to commit murder dating from December 1979, in which he had unsuccessfully attempted to persuade 2 inmates due to be released to murder Robin Roback in order to prevent her from testifying against him at his upcoming trial. The charges for the rape of Robin Roback would later be dropped because of lack of physical evidence, as well as Roback's failing to identify her attackers in the lineup. When asked by Judge William Hollingsworth as how he pleaded, Bittaker remained silent, refusing to answer any questions. In response, the judge entered a plea of not guilty. Bittaker's trial began on January 19, 1981. He was tried in Torrance before Judge Thomas Fredericks. The star witness to appear for the prosecution at the trial Bittaker was Norris, who began his testimony on January 22nd. Norris...
Yeah. Isn't he but he has to be a pretty unreliable witness,
you would
right?
think so. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, he was there.
Yeah, but, he wants to say anything he can to make the other guy.
Yeah, but they found the skeletal remains, and it matched up with the story, so they're believing him.
Okay.
The star witness to appear for the prosecution at the trial Bittaker was Norris, who began his testimony on January 22nd. Norris testified as how he became acquainted with Bittaker in jail, and how the pair had formulated a plan to kidnap, rape, and kill teenage girls. Responding to questions from the prosecutor, Norris stated that in June 1979 he had unsuccessfully attempted to abduct and rape a woman who escaped unharmed. When he informed Bittaker of this incident, they both agreed to act together on all future abductions. Norris then chronologically recounted for the court the details of each of the 5 members he and Bittaker had murders he and Bittaker had committed, in addition to the September 30th, 1979 rape of Roback, the attempted abduction of a woman named Jan Malan, which had also occurred on September 30th, and the attempted abduction of an unidentified young woman on September 27th.
Jesus.
Right? In reference to the actual murders, Norris stated that after he unsuccessfully attempted to strangle Schaefer, Bittaker had strangled her with a coat wire hanger. The pair had then thrown her body into a location at or near the San Dimas Canyon. In reference to murder of Hall, Norris stated that he had told by Bittaker to drive to a nearby store to purchase alcohol when Hall was murdered, after which he returned to find Bittaker smiling and holding Polaroid pictures he had taken of Hall after informing her he intended to kill her. With reference to the victims, Lamp and Gilliam, Norris stated that the 2 girls were held captive for over a day before being murdered, adding that Bittaker had killed Gilliam before he himself bludgeoned Lamp about the head as Bittaker strangled her. When discussing the abuse and torture of Bloodford, Norris stated he had, upon the insistence of Bittaker, committed the actual murder of Bloodford, adding Bittaker had informed him that, quote, I should kill her because I hadn't killed anyone yet. I knew this was coming, so I agreed, unquote. Norris then confessed to having killed by strangling her with a coat hanger, which he had tightened with the pliers in much of the same manner Bittaker had with the previous victims, Schaefer and Lamp. Norris then stated that the pair had driven to Sunland, where he had discarded Shirley Ledford's body upon the front lawn as Bittaker waited in his van. Several witnesses testified as to Bittaker having shown them pictures of the victims he had retained as keepsakes, and which had been found in his motel. One witness, a 17-year-old neighbor of Bittaker's named Christina Drayle, testified that Bittaker had shown her a
Polaroid
picture he had taken of Jillian before stating, quote, "The girls I get won't talk anymore," unquote.
Ew.
I know. Drayle also stated Bittaker had once played a cassette tape to her in which she had heard two girls screaming and Bittaker laughing.
Ew.
Another witness to testify was Lloyd Douglas, who had shared a cell with Bittaker following his November 1979 arrest. Douglas testified that Bittaker had discussed in detail the torture he had inflicted on victims Gilliam and Ledford, stating Bittaker had informed him he had stabbed one of Gilliam's breasts with an ice pick, which he then twisted as a tool remained inserted into the wound. He also pinched Gilliam on the legs and breast with a vice grip before tearing off one part of her nipple. Douglas also stated that Bittaker had informed him he had pulled on the genitals and breasts of Shirley Ledford with the same instrument, and that he had attempted to beat her breasts, quote, "back into her chest," unquote. The defense, it's hard. The defense contended that Norris was the actual perpetrator of the murders and that Bittaker had only become aware of Norris' activity shortly before his arrest, when Norris had informed him he had murdered several girls to whom which they had encountered and engaged in sexual activities. To support their case, the defense produced a friend of Norris named Richard Shootmoon, who testified to Norris's repeatedly divulging to him his desire to rape young girls.
Bittaker saying, like, he didn't kill anyone. Mm-hmm. It was all this other dude.
Yeah.
But he was part of the rape and, like, torture?
Yeah.
But not the killing.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah. Shootman also testified that Norris had informed him that the look of shock and fear on the face of a young girl was a prime sexual stimulus for him. In support of Bittaker's case, the defense also harked to the
Polaroid
images taken of the facial expression of Hall.
And I wasn't sure why you were looking at me like that, because I had just yawned. And I'm like...
Yeah. Bittaker regarding his prime sexual stimulations while both were incarcerated at the California Men's Colony in 1977. The most damning evidence presented at Bittaker's trial was a 17-minute section of the audio tape the pair had created of Ledford's abuse and torment. The audio tape, which had been found inside Bittaker's van and which Norris had earlier testified Bittaker had repeatedly played as he drove in the weeks prior to his arrest, adding that Bittaker considered the contents to be, quote, real funny, was presented in evidence on January 29th, with Stephen K. forwarding the jury, quote, "For those of you who do not know what hell is like, you will find out."
Oh my gosh.
More than 100 people were present in the courtroom as the tape was played, and many of the members of both the jury and the audience wept openly upon hearing the contents, with several members of the audience either burying their heads in their hands, dabbing tears from their eyes, or rushing out of the courtroom before the tapes had finished. Bittaker was undisturbed at the hearing of the contents of the tape and smiled through the duration of the recording.
What a fucked up motherfucker.
In one of the two instances throughout the trial when the prosecutor, Stephen K., was reduced to tears, he walked out of the courtroom during recess following the hearing of the recording of Ledford's rape, abuse, and torture. Weeping openly, K. stated to the reporters gathered outside the courtroom, "Everyone who has heard the tape has had it affect their lives. Just picture those girls, how alone they were when they died." When questioned by reporters whether the audio tape should have been introduced into evidence, given the obvious psychological and emotional trauma caused to many in the courtroom through the contents of being broadcast, Case simply stated, "You're darn right, the audio tape should have been there. The jury needs to know what these guys did."
Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I think you need to know what they did.
Yeah.
Just telling people, like, I'm a visual person, so, like, hearing and seeing something would make me believe more.
Than just, like, the recounting of their stories.
Yeah.
I think so, too. I think it's so sad that her mom had to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine?
No, I think
even.
I'd probably have to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. In one of the two instances throughout the trial when prosecutor Stephen K. was reduced to tears, he walked... did I read that?
You did.
Yeah.
You're here.
On February 5th, 1981, Bittaker testified on his own behalf. Bittaker... I know. It's just... Dude. Bittaker denied any knowledge in the abduction and murder of Schaefer and claimed he had paid Hall to pose for the
Polaroid
photographs depicting her found at his Burbank motel after Hall had agreed to his offer of $200 for sex. He then claimed Norris had walked Hall into the San Gabriel Mountains before returning alone and informing Bittaker he had told Hall to find her own way home.
He's so full of shit.
I know, yeah. Bittaker had a similar explanation as to the double murder of Lamp and Gilliam. He claimed Gilliam accepted an offer of money for sex and posing for pictures, and that he had last seen the girls alone with Norris in his GMC van. With regards to the murder of Ledford, he claimed she had agreed to theatrically scream for the tape recorder, and that she was not tortured in his presence, but had been left alone with Norris. Bittaker's trial lasted for over 3 weeks. On February 9th, 1981, the prosecution and defense counselors began their closing arguments. In the closing argument delivered by the prosecution, Kay apologized to the jury that he was only asking for the death penalty, adding that he wished the law permitted him to request that the same suffering be inflicted upon Bittaker that he had inflicted upon his victims. Kay then described Bittaker as an excuse for a man as he held aloft pictures of each of the 5 murdered girls before the jury. Seeing the death penalty for Bittaker, Kay referred to the case as one of the most shocking, brutal cases in the history of American crime, and added, "Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, a punishment of life imprisonment in prison would be a total, complete victory for him. If the death penalty is not appropriate in this case, then when will it ever be?" In his own closing argument before the jury, Deputy District Attorney C. Randolph Ramsey
discredited.
It is?
Yeah. Discredited.
Yeah, it is. Discredited Bittaker's claims that, contrary to Norris's testimony, Shirley Lynette Ledford had agreed to scream, weep, and plead for mercy theatrically for the tape recording, introducing as evidence, stating to the jury, "You have heard the sounds on this tape. Miss Ledford screaming, yelling, 'Don't touch me. No, no, no.' That tape should be sufficient corroboration by itself." Defense attorney Albert Gardner requested the jury discount the testimony of Norris, arguing in favor of Bittaker's claims that Norris had committed the actual murders, and claiming the testimony of the prosecutors throughout the trial amounted to little more than a bloodlust, adding that the prosecution had repeatedly recited the gory details of the murders. Gory. Garber harked to the earlier testimony of a psychologist named Michael Maloney, who had testified as to Bittaker's inability to empathize with other people's feelings and emotions, in addition to the fact that, with exception of Bittaker's 1974 stabbing of Gary Louie, all of Bittaker's previous criminal convictions were for non-violent offenses. The defense also claimed that insufficient corroboration evidence existed to convict Bittaker on February 17, 1981. After deliberating for 3 days, the jury found Bittaker guilty of 5 counts of first-degree murder, 1 charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, 5 charges of kidnapping, 9 charges of rape, 2 charges of forcible oral copulation, 1 charge of sodomy, and 3 charges of unlawful possession of a firearm. Deliberations as to whether Bittaker should be sentenced to death or life without parole began on February 19th.
Is there like a special sentencing for sticking an ice pick in someone's ear?
There should be.
Because I think there should be. That's like the most disgusting.
That was the most.
Really fucked up.
Yeah.
Just like so violent and
yeah,
horrific.
The jury deliberated for just 90 minutes before they returned with their verdict. Bittaker was sentenced to death for the 5 counts of first-degree murder upon which the prosecution had sought this penalty. He showed no emotion as the verdict was delivered. Superior Court Judge Thomas Fredericks then ordered Bittaker to appear in court on March 24th for formal sentencing.
It's my dad's birthday.
Yeah. On March 24th, in accordance with the jury verdict, Bittaker was formally sentenced to death. In the event that the sentence imposed was ever reverted to life imprisonment, Judge Thomas Fredericks imposed an alternative sentence of 199 years, 4 months imprisonment to take immediate effect.
What an interesting, 199 years and 4 months.
Yeah. Just in case.
What an interesting amount of time to be sentenced.
While incarcerated, Bittaker filed more than 40 frivolous lawsuits over issues as trivial as him being served a broken cookie and a crushed sandwiches by the prison cafeteria, which he cited as examples of being subject to cruel and unusual punishment.
Oh, fuck you.
Bittaker was declared...
Fuck you, dude. Your broken cookie is cruel and unusual punishment as you stuck an ice pick in someone's ear? Fuck you.
As a result of the permission of attorney or judge, Bittaker died while incarcerated on his death row at San Quentin State Prison.
Did you miss this sentence?
Yes. Bittaker was declared vexatious litigant in 1993.
What's that word mean?
I don't know.
You put it in your writing.
I know. I just copied it.
What is it called? Vexatious?
Vexatious litigant.
Vexatious.
Vexatious. As a result of this declaration...
Hold on. Okay. A vexatious litigant is basically saying a person who starts litigation and knows that there's no legal basis for the lawsuit. Okay. So basically you're dumb.
Yeah. As a result of this declaration, he was not allowed to file lawsuits without the express permission of an attorney or a judge. Bittaker died while incarcerated on death row at San Quentin State Prison on December 13, 2019, at the age of 79. His death was reported as being due to natural causes.
That's too easy for him.
Too easy. Norris was incarcerated at the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility. He died of natural causes at the California Medical Facility on February 24, 2020, at the age of 72, having been transferred to this facility 1 week prior to his death. And that is all.
That is all. They're both dead.
They're both dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
They were horrible.
They were horrible people. So I got my information mainly from the Toolbox documentary, Wikipedia, and Murderpedia.
They were awful.
Yeah. Very bad men. Very bad men who just, I don't know how bad they would have been if they hadn't met each other. Is that coincidence that they just, these two pieces of shit just...
Don't they say that, jail teaches people how to be better criminals?
Yeah, probably.
And when you're letting people who have rap sheets that are so long out just over and over again.
Yeah.
What do you expect? Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad they're both dead.
Yeah, they're done.
I wonder why he didn't get the death, why he ended up not getting executed. Well, not Norris, the other one.
Bittaker. He died.
No, I know, but he was on death row for so long. Why didn't
I think you're on death row for a long time.
Because you can keep appealing it, right?
Probably.
Wow.
I think 20 years you're on death row or something.
I mean, they have to give enough time to make sure that they're executing someone who actually committed the crime, right?
Yeah. No, I fully agree on that. Yeah. But I think death row is different. You're in a different area of the jail too.
Does California still have the death penalty?
I don't know.
I don't think so anymore.
No? I don't know.
I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine.
I don't know. Don't know.
I assume not. They're super liberal.
Yeah, that's true. Do we in Texas?
Do we in Texas?
What?
No, we just all have guns.
Shooting range. Death by shooting range is what we do here in Texas.
No. Actually, someone recently in, like, the town over, they shot someone who was on their front yard. Just because, like, through the Ring doorbell, they were like, leave. And the person didn't leave, and they just opened the door and shot him.
That's awesome.
Didn't kill him, but shot him.
I'd be pissed.
If someone was on your door?
No, if someone shot me for being on their lawn.
Yeah. It makes me scared, like,
yeah,
driving. Yeah. Drivers here are so crazy, but, like, I just never, like, I just assume everyone's gonna drive crazy, but I don't really honk my horn at people.
No,
I'm like, I'm too afraid. I'm too afraid.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's fine. Cut me off.
Yeah.
No problem. Wait at the light until it turns red again. I don't care. I have all day. It's fine. Everything's fine. So.
Yeah. I hear you.
I hated that.
Yeah.
A lot. Well, that one wasn't so bad.
No, that one wasn't so bad.
But the first one.
Yeah. That was a lot.
Ice picks. They really fucking weird me out.
Yeah. They're kind of creepy.
It's like just so, I don't know, to me it feels more violent than anything else.
Well, in your ear, too.
I know. Like, I can just, like, imagine, like, you know when you can, like, hear something inside your ear?
Yeah.
Like, imagine, like, hearing this. Ugh.
Yeah.
I remember hearing a story about someone who had a moth fly into their ear.
Ooh.
And, like, hearing a moth, like, hit their eardrum.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
is it super loud?
Yeah, but, like,
yeah.
Like, that sounds like hell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Constantly. Ugh. Yeah.
Ear stuff weirds me out.
Yeah.
More than most other things. Like,
because they always talk about, like, bugs crawling in your ear in the middle of the night and stuff. Spiders laying eggs in your ears.
I don't want foreign objects in my ears. No, zero foreign objects. Like, I don't even want to use Q-tips at this point. Like, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing in my ears. That's enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
all right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
And you can find us on Instagram at
The Murder Mamas.
And Twitter.
The Murder Mamas.
And Facebook.
The M Mamas.
And
why is it the M Mamas?
Because you can't say murder on Facebook. And email.
themurdermamas@gmail.com.
And that's it.
And that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.